So this is Lynn Matajan from Matajan's Herbals, and tonight we're going to have a conversation about Llamas, which is the first of 3 harvest festivals. This is the one, Llamas, that is celebrating grain. It is generally one of the first crops that are harvested. And in days of old, grain was very important to survival. And it is interesting thing, an interesting comment is that the word corn in the rest of the world, and most particularly in medieval times, was a generic catch-all name. What we look at as corn is maize in most other places. And it is, so if you look at a corn dolly can be made out of corn husks, but it also can be made out of wheat sheaves. It is, and it's still called a corn dolly because corn is a generic name. It is, so doing history and looking back to do research, it's kind of an interesting thing for me, because I get confused every now and again and forget that corn is a generic name, and sometimes the research didn't make sense to me. But so if you have found that same thing, that's why. That's the situation. So I'm coming to you today from a new room in my house. This is the living room portion of my great room. I'm sitting in front of my coffee table, and I was looking at my coffee table thinking, it's unfortunate you can't see it. So I'm actually going to tell you what's on my coffee table, and then I'm going to take a picture of it when we're done with this class, and I'm going to put it on this page so you can see. 3 years ago, a group of about 50 of us put a crystal grid around Snohomish County. And the idea was the grid was for protection and for healing and for prosperity. And it was, we did it at Langus Park, where we actually raised 2 circles. The first circle was to bless the stones, and then people went out with a stone and an address and buried the stones on public grounds, and then they came back and we raised another circle, and at that point we connected the grid. Now the 3 centerpiece stones in the grid, the above, below, and within stones, are sitting here on my coffee table. It is the above is a amethyst cathedral. The below is it's a very thick stone wand, an obelisk, that is indigo gabbro, which is an earth healer. And the within is a carnelian egg shape. They're very, very cool stones. The egg is on a candle holder, and one of the things that I get a kick out of is when I take the picture today, you're going to see that it's sitting vertically. No, horizontally. It's laying down here. So instead of being like up like an egg, it's laying down this way. And it does it by itself. I will set it up so the heavy part of the base of the egg is on the bottom, and I'll come back and it'll be turned again. So it's just kind of a funny thing. I've also got 3 dragons on my coffee table here. This is organite, and I've got 2 of these organite dragon skulls, and it's pretty. They're one of my favorite stones that I've got here. And then I've got a little candle holder that's a dragon as well. I've got a second amethyst cathedral with a quartz cluster in the center of it, and then I've got some incense holders. One is a flying monkey, one is a tree that looks like one of the trees from the Wizard of Oz, except for it doesn't have any leaves, it's just the trunk. and then I've got some candles on here. The tabletop is like a granite and something I found in a secondhand store, and probably favorite piece of furniture in in this great room right here. So now back to llamas. Sometimes people think, why are harvest festivals important? Because I'm not a farmer and I don't garden. And it is, whether you garden or not, harvest is important because that's what we eat. That's whether it's farms in the Midwest or whether it is dairy farms here in the Northwest. We still have a vested need for these harvests to be abundant and good. Otherwise, you end up, like we're doing right now, seeing groceries go up and up and up. There's a lot more people gardening this year than ever before, and the reason I know that is because as I went out looking for seeds, you couldn't find them. And so even in our own little yards and in our decks with container gardens, we're doing gardening. Now, the other thing that we need to keep in mind, though, is we have a lot of other gardens that aren't for raising food, but they are parts of our lives that need to be tended and goals need to be set, and those are things like our spiritual growth, our financial growth, being our own authentic self. Those are things that we need to tend. We need to plant the seeds for success and tend those. And so if you don't connect with the harvest of food, connect with the harvest of goals and intents that you have been, we've been talking about since Imbolc in February. It is, it's important that we continue to grow personally, as well as having the food to eat so that we continue to stay alive. It is one of the things that is strange about llamas is it's got this floating date. Depending upon where you look, what research pieces you're using, it can be from sundown July 31st to sundown August 1st. It can be sundown August 1st to sundown August 2nd, or it can be a variable date. It is, Llamas is supposed to be the midpoint between Litha, which is the summer solstice, and Mabon, which is the, is that right? The the autumnal equinox. So it's supposed to be right there between the two. And it is, and the equinox and the solstice, they move because it is totally dependent on the stars and the moon and where everything is in the sky. And so if the date of the summer solstice and the date of the autumnal equinox move, then obviously the date for llamas, if it is supposed to be exactly in the midpoint, that has to move as well. So it could actually be anywhere between July 31st and August 5th. You decide, what school you want to be in. And it is, that's kind of one of the joys about this kind of a holiday, is that it gets to be for you. So I'm going to be celebrating it on August 1st, which is Saturday, and we'll be doing ritual, and again on Facebook Live at 7 o'clock, so if you'd like to join us, there is an event already made, and you can see what you need in order to participate fully. It is, because grains are the first that we harvest generally, and because they're so important to our diet, bread is a correspondence for this. kind of for this holiday. Corn is one for this holiday as well. It is, this is a tween time. It's between the equinox, or the solstice and the equinox. And so this is a time that is used for transformation magic. It is a time to stretch your wings and to challenge your limits. It is a time to do magic around your hearth and home, protection magic, blessings, abundance, fertility. Excuse me, in the days of old, farmers would drive their stock through rivers and creeks to cleanse them and make sure that they stay healthy and abundant. It's very important to show gratitude during this time, as well as doing as putting out good feelings and good hopes for continued abundance. Because if you don't show that you're grateful for what you've had, it's kind of hard to say, give me more, give me more. It is, at this point, it is, the other name for Llamas is Lunasa, which is the holiday honoring the Irish god Lugh, who was very much had all of the skills. He was a smithy. He was a healer. He was a bard. He did all kinds of things. And this is the time that we that if you do the Celtic gods, you would honor him as well. He is very similar to Mercury, if you are more aware of the Greco-Roman gods. It is, so that's kind of the two holidays. You do either the harvest, or you are going to honor Lugh. I tend to call the holiday Llamas, and I use it as a harvest festival, because I generally always try to grow something. It could be very small something, but I always try to grow something, just as to remember how the planting and harvesting goes. So the three holidays that are harvest holidays are Llamas, Mabon, and Samhain. And it is, and those signify the actual whole harvest cycle. So it is birth, the planting of the seeds. It is growth, tending your garden and helping it to grow. It is death, the harvesting of the garden. And then it is rebirth, which is then the collection of the seeds. So that's the whole cycle of life, for whether it's the cycle of a plant life or whether it's the cycle of our lives. It is, so these next three holidays, that's what we're going to be celebrating, culminating with Samhain and the ancestors, which is death and rebirth in a different place. It is, right now, we're having hotter weather. The earth is getting drier, and everything is getting prepared for more harvest. So the apples are going to be showing up pretty soon, and they'll be red, and you'll have the golden crops of wheat and hay. It is, it's time to recognize the work that we did before and how far we've gotten. So this is the time to look back to Yule, when we very first started, with what are we going to do for the next year. It is, it takes us a long time to plant the seeds, and it takes us a while for the things to grow. And so having the three holidays for harvest makes sense, because you're honoring your time spent all before. The correspondences, if you're going to put an altar up, you want to put an altar up for the goddess and also for the green man, or one of the gods. It is because this is the time, the harvest is the direct result of both the goddess and the god. And we want to make sure that they are both honored for their part in that. So the colors that represent this particular holiday are yellow, brown, gold, and green. Basically, all of the colors of the things that we harvest. If you're going to use herbs to make an incense or to make an offering, blackberry, bilberry, allspice, basil, and rosemary. The trees for this time of year are apple, hazelnut, and holly. Um, Abundance, prosperity, protection. These are all things that go through all of these correspondences that we just talked about. Tomorrow I'm going to put the correspondences on this page, so you can, if you need that, we've got it. How to celebrate Llamas. Llamas is harvesting out of your garden, going to a U-Pick farm and picking strawberries and preserving them. Going to a harvest festival. Now, obviously, we're not doing that this time. If you had but last year, and hopefully next year, this is the time that we start seeing all the county fairs. And it is, and that's a way to celebrate the harvest, is the county fairs. It is making bread. So actually, Saturday morning, I'll be making bread for our ritual Saturday night. It is, and there's a bread protection spell that we're going to be doing in the circle with on Saturday. It is, this is one of my favorite holidays. I think one of the reasons it's one of my favorites is because it's simply celebrating Gaia, and it is also celebrating the work that we have done up to this point in the year. Now, there are different kinds of magic that you can do during this time. We talked about it, protection, divination. There's one spell where you take a potato and you cut it in half, and then you carve symbols in it for what you need. If it's something like a prosperity, you can put a dollar sign in it. And then what you do is you take that, once you've got it carved in there, then you take the potato and you put it in either dye or you put it in paint, and then you use it like a potato stamp, if you did that when you were in Girl Scouts. And then you stamp a piece of paper, and then you put your candle with the appropriate color on it, and state your intent and your goal, and there you've got a potato spell. It is the foods that would be normally eaten around this time would be grain-centered, so like a barley soup or roasted corn. I'm going to have that tonight for dinner when I get done here, roasted corn. And it is anything that would have grains and breads involved in it. So with the kind of food changes that we've had between medieval times and now, pasta is grain based, and so a pasta dish would be appropriate at this point in times too. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do is divination. Okay, so a divination that is done for Llamas is a corn divination. And so I've got right here, this is a bowl of popcorn. Because, popcorn now has a few less in there. Popcorn is a grain, and it's dried corn. So what we're going to do is, this is to answer a yes or no question. So the question that I'm going to ask, I don't know if you've noticed around your neck of the woods, but here in North Everett, the trees are already starting to turn color. They've started about 2 weeks ago, turning the autumn colors. Now, I have questions about that. Since we're turning in mid-July, what is that going to do for winter? So my question, my yes or no question is going to be, will we have more snow than normal this next winter. Right? So you reach in and you pull out as many corn kernels as you want, and you put them on the table. Then you put them in series of 4. Now, if you have an even number of stacks of corn, if you have an even, and you have, okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have an even number of stacks of 4, because I have 4 of them right here. But I have an odd number of leftovers. I've got 3 leftovers. So if it had been an even number of stacks at 4 and an even number of leftovers, the answer would have been yes. If it had been an odd number of stacks of 4, like 3 instead of the 4 that I had, and an odd number of the leftovers, like the 3 that I have, then the answer is no. If you have a variance where you've got an even number of one and an odd number of the other, the answer is, we're not going to tell you. So, I don't know anything more now than I did when we started this. I guess what I'm going to do is just make sure that I have plenty of coats and wood for my fireplace. And if I need it, I've got it. And if I don't need it, I'll have it for next year. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope this was helpful for you in this upcoming holiday. If you have any questions, as always, please put them on the video here, and I will respond as quickly as I can. And then I'll also, like I said, tomorrow I will put the correspondences and a couple of recipes on this page, and I will also put a picture of my coffee table. Thanks for joining me. Blessed Llamas, and hopefully I'll see you on Saturday. Bye.